We shall commence this module by studying about problems of preference revelation. Preference revelation is an area where studies are being undertaken for ascertaining the demand for public goods by the consumers. Preference revelation is also called as preference revelation problem in public choice theory in economics. This theory says that if policy planners of the government do not have full information and knowledge about individual preferences, then it is possible that public goods can be oversupplied or undersupplied by the government. There are two types of goods in economics, public goods and private goods. Preference revelation studies the demand for public goods which are non-excludable in nature. This means that people are enjoying various benefits of the public good, but the public good is not contributing in the production function of the economy. The information about public goods and the benefits derived from these public goods is gathered from the public only. And there is a possibility that common public will not give the accurate information about the goods being supplied to them by the government. They can underreport the value of goods being supplied to them in order to avoid taxes. Thus, this problem of undervaluation is also known as free rider problem in economics. Government, in order to prevent from this problem happening again and again in the economy, goes for compulsory taxation. However, if government will force the people to pay taxes, then they will not reveal the correct price of the public goods. Therefore, government will levy too much tax or not enough tax on the public good. So, the best solution for preference revelation problem is to implement the tax structure of their choice. If taxpayers are given the chance to choose to pay taxes according to their requirements, then they will not hide their preference for public goods and will give correct information about their prices. Preference revelation problem in economics is the problem which the government used to face in determining the preference of individual. Individual preferences can be determined by survey or by revealed preference. Information which is collected from revealed preference is considered to be the ideal information, and it is considered to be less biased and error-free as compared from other sources. Revealed preference information is being obtained from centralized structures of the government, but the information gathered by the government making bodies can prove to be costly and time consuming. So, these bodies often use survey information, but such information is less accurate from the information gathered from other sources. When central bodies of the government obtain information, they often process that the information collected by them is less efficient due to lack of appropriate expert opinion and too much political interference in the working of centralized structures also detract the ability of the government in finding out the optimal solution of the preference revelation problem. Markets used to gather information in a more efficient manner than the central structures of the government. Thus, the relative insufficiency of the government in gathering information about individual preferences is called as preference revelation problem in economics. After starting this module, you shall be able to know about free rider problem, learn the types of preferences, identify the importance of preferences, evaluate the aggregation of preferences, analyze the framework of non-preferences. Now, we shall understand about the meaning and types of preferences. Preference means liking one thing or wants to have a product better than the others. When individual preferences are combined together, then it is known as total demand. When it is a matter of private goods, then the spending by the public gives the true preference of the private good, but when it is a matter of public good, then true preferences of the good are not being conveyed to the government because of the policy of compulsory taxation by the government. Central government used to collect information about the public goods with the help of the experts being appointed by them. But when the government is insufficient in collecting the information about the public goods as compared to private goods in the market, then this problem is known as preference revelation problem in economics. Thus, preference revelation problem is the problem being faced by the government in determining the preferences of the individuals. There are three main types of studying the preferences of individuals. First, stated preference. This type of preference is also known as contingent valuation. This technique is a survey-based technique for valuing resources of non-market in nature. This type of valuation is for environmental preservation or the impact of toxic substances and contamination on the environment. These types of non-market resources are useful to the public, and the public also receive various benefits from these non-market resources, but they do not have a price because these resources are not directly sold to the public. For example, the view of the sunset point is very beautiful and people are benefited from this view, but it is very tough to fix a price of this view. Thus, contingent valuation is a technique based on surveys and is used to measure these kind of aspects related with non-market resources. This model of valuing of non-market resources was first proposed theoretically by S.V. Kirikasi in 1947. The practical application of this model was first done by Davis in 1963 to estimate the value of hunters and also develop an idea about various tourist places. Second, revealed preference. This concept was given by Paul Samuelson, who was an American economist. Revealed preference is an economic theory of consumption behavior which asserts that the best way to measure consumer preferences is to observe their purchasing behavior. This method works on the assumption that consumers used to consider various set of alternatives before making any purchase decision. This method reveals that one can develop an idea about consumer behavior from their purchasing habits, taste, style and fashion of the consumer. This method came into being because of the past and present theories into existence were based on marginal rate of substitution. This method is a type of valuation where public reveals their preferences according to their choices. This theory predicts the individual preferences before spending time and money on something. This theory also states that the best way to measure consumer behavior is to keep a watch on their purchasing behavior. This theory works on the assumption that consumers used to consider various kind of alternatives before making any purchase decision. The two main methods of revealed preference are: first, travel cost method. This method is most suitable for determining the recreational values related with biodiversity and services of ecosystem. These are based on the assumption that recreational experiences are associated with the cost. B. Hedonic pricing method. In this type of valuation method, one utilizes the information about the implicit demand for the environmental conditions. For example, the value of the house will be affected if it is close to nature. A house will be having a handsome price if nice landscape is seen from the house. So, the valuation pricing procedure will be affected if there is a change in the environmental conditions. The disadvantage of this type of valuation is that it is time consuming and expensive in nature. Third, demonstrated preference. This type of preference gives an idea about the choices of the consumer that reveals their true preferences. Demonstrated preference can also be defined as that the true preferences of an individual can be revealed only after spending the time and money on something. The concept of demonstrated preference simply states that actual choice reveals or demonstrates a man's preferences, that his preferences are deducible from what he has chosen in action. The choice of tax system comes under the category of demonstrated preference. It is truly said that actions speak louder than words. For example, a man decides to spend an hour at a movie rather spending time at movie, so it can be inferred that spending time was preferred and ranked higher on the value scale. Let us now discuss about the aggregation of preferences. Aggregate in economics means a summary measure which describes about market or economy. Thus, aggregation is a collection or the gathering of things together. It is derived from the Latin word ad meaning to and aggregare meaning herd. Thus, it literally means to herd or to flock. When total demand of individuals is being studied collectively, then it is known as aggregate demand. Thus, preference aggregation in social choice theory in economics is being defined as forming a collective preference from the various set of alternatives. When individual preferences are being aggregated into a collective form to choose a preferred alternative, then it is known as aggregation of preferences. In preference aggregation, various individuals used to express their preferences over a set of alternatives, and these preferences are then aggregated into a collective preference. When individual preferences are presented in the form of aggregation, then it is also called as social welfare function. The result of classical theory and studies by various classical economists shows that in social choice theory, it is very difficult to aggregate the preference of individuals under various kinds of conditions available in the economy. During the past few years, preference aggregation has experienced a dramatic increase of attention from various scientists and economists. In social choice theory, preference aggregation is considered to be the heart in deciding about individual preferences. In preference aggregation, several individual preferences are given a ranking of two or more social alternatives, and a single collective preference ranking is worked out from the various alternatives. The rule for aggregating individual preferences is also known as group preference aggregation rule. This rule is based on the values of individuals which are measurable and can be used under conditions of certainty. How individual preferences are being aggregated is being a major branch of study for various economists, but the most popular study for aggregating preferences is the Arrow's impossibility theorem. This is also known as Arrow's paradox in economics. Kenneth Arrow found out the rule for constructing social preferences from individual preferences. This theorem says that when voters have three or more than three options, then there is no ranking order voting system which can convert the preferences of individuals which are being ranked into a community-wide ranking system if it also means meeting the pre-specified set of standards. These pre-specified standards are also known as non-dictatorship. This theorem is mostly applied in voting procedures for individuals. This theorem also says that until and unless there are mandatory principles for voting, it would be very difficult to have a clear order of individual preferences. This paradox is based on ideal voting structure that should meet certain specific criteria like Pareto efficiency. This theorem can be explained with the help of following example. There are three candidates A, B, C, and these three candidates want to rank their preferences, as you can see in the chart. The conclusion is that candidate A has more votes, so he is the winner. B was not in any majority. C could be the winner as more people prefer C over A. Thus, this is the result of Arrow's theorem. The other scholars which were associated with aggregating preferences were Condorcet and Bellman. Condorcet anticipated a key theme in modern social choice theory. Condorcet concluded that majority system is subject to some surprising problems in social choice theory. Fuzzy logic by Bellman also helps in solving the problem of preference aggregation. This model is suitable when human preferences cannot be estimated in numeric value because the binary values are not suitable to real world conditions. Thus, time to time various theories have been developed and an extensive amount of research has been done by various economists for aggregating individual preferences. Moving further, let us now learn about the mechanism of aggregating preferences. Mechanisms are those decision-making functions which maps the individual preferences and put them in an order and tries that a possible outcome should be determined from the ordering procedure. It is also the art of designing various rules and regulations so that a desirable outcome is achieved, though each individual acts for his own self-interest. For example, voting, protocols and auctions come under this category. The most common mechanism for aggregating individual preferences is majority voting. First, majority voting. This is one of the most popular and common mechanism in social decision theory. In this system, individual preferences are being voted and the option that receives the maximum majority of votes is chosen. The majority voting system should satisfy three criteria. A. Dominance. If one option is being chosen by all the voters, then the aggregation must yield this choice. B. Independence of irrelevant alternatives. If an independent alternative is also being introduced, then also it will not change the preference between two choices. C. Transitivity. This means that choices must satisfy the criteria of transitivity. For example, A greater than B and B greater than C, then A is greater than C. The concept of majority voting can be explained with the help of following example. There is a town which is deciding about for government school funding and taxes on education. Now there can be three possibilities: high spending, medium spending and low spending. There are three groups which are being represented in equal order: low income parents, medium income parents and high income parents. The result would be as follows. Low income parents have low income, so they will send their children to public schools. High income parents are opposite in nature, as their income is good, so they will send their children to private school and will not take interest in sending it to government school. Middle income parents belong from middle class society. Their income is medium, so they want moderate taxes. They cannot pay much from their pockets, so they will prefer that they should send their children to private schools, which is not much costly as compared to other private schools in the town. Majority voting system does not work in case of M. Condorcet paradox, because the assumption in this paradox is that majority voting does not lead to a stable outcome. Taxes are assumed to be non-regressive in nature. Majority voting is also explained with the help of following table. Preference ordering in first, second, third as compared to low, middle and high. This table implies that L is greater than H and M is greater than L, which means that M is greater than L greater than H. This table also reflects that H is to L is equal to 1:2 and HM is equal to 1:2 and ML is equal to 2:1. These results are being reflected when majority voting delivers a consistent outcome. In case of Condorcet paradox, the majority voting will not deliver the consistent outcome, then the table will be presented in the following way. This table implies that H to L is equal to 1:2 and H to M is equal to 2:1 and M to L is equal to 2:1, which states that L is greater than H and M is greater than L, which can be expressed in the following way: M greater than L greater than H. Condorcet ballot was given in 1785 and this ballot focuses on face-to-face election of the candidate. Condorcet ballot used to show the comparison of the candidate and which candidate is considered to be better than all the other candidates present in face-to-face election. Condorcet ballot is also explained with the help of following table. This table reflects that X versus Y has 9 votes, Y versus X has 18 votes, Y wins over X. Similarly, Z beats X, Y and T, X beats T and Y beats T and therefore Z is the winner. There is one more voting procedure which was given by Borda in 1783. Borda ballot is based on the principle of point system which is being explained with the help of following table. This table reflects that one gives 4 points to a candidate in the first position, 3 points to a candidate in a second position, 2 points to a candidate in a third position. The candidate with the highest score is elected. This table also shows that X has 64 points, Y has 75 points, Z has 74 points, T has 57 points and Y is the winner from the voting. The conclusion from Condorcet ballot and Borda ballot that there are two different voting procedures and two different winners from these voting procedures. Second, median voter theory. Preferences if are single peaked, then only the majority system will give a stable outcome. Median voter theory concept is being applied when voters' taste fall under the middle set of category. The disadvantage of this theory is that sometimes it proves to be inefficient and does not give a clear picture on the intensity of preferences. This theory can also be explained with the help of following example. There is a town which is considering building a children park in the town. There are 1000 voters in the town. The park will cost rupees 40,000 which will be financed by a tax of rupees 40 on each voter. 500 people are willing to contribute in building of the children park by donating rupees 100 each. 500 of the voters are not interested in contributing a single amount. Thus, marginal benefit of the children park 500 into 100 plus 500 into 0 which gives us rupees 50,000. Marginal cost of building the children park is rupees 40,000. The result is that it is optimal to build the children park as marginal benefit is more than the marginal cost. In this case, 500 people are saying yes and 500 people are saying no, so majority voting will not work under this system as consumers have a medium taste. According to social efficiency, the park should be built for the children. Let us now summarize what we have learned so far. Preference revelation is an area where studies are being undertaken for ascertaining the demand for public goods by the public. Preference revelation studies the demand for public goods which are non-excludable in nature. Preference revelation problem is a problem being faced by the government in determining the preferences of the individuals. Stated type of preference is also known as contingent valuation. This technique is a survey-based technique for valuing resources of non-market in nature. Revealed preference theory predicts the individual preferences before spending time and money on something. This theory also states that the best way to measure consumer behavior is to keep a watch on their purchasing behavior. Demonstrated preference can also be defined as that the true preferences of an individual can be revealed only after spending the time and money on something. The choice of tax system comes under the category of demonstrated preference. Aggregate in economics means a summary measure which describes about market or economy. Arrow's theorem says that when voters have 3 or more than 3 options, then there is no ranking order voting system which can convert the preferences of individuals which are being ranked into a community-wide ranking system if it also meeting the pre-specified set of standards. Mechanism are those decision-making functions which maps the individual preferences and puts them in an order and tries that a possible outcome should be determined from the ordering procedure. The most common mechanism for aggregating individual preferences is majority voting. If an independent alternative is also being introduced, then also it will not change the preference between two choices. Thank you.